We got to know, what's the latest? What have you learned since then?
Yeah, Charlie, this is an ever-evolving situation in Major League Baseball right now, and there are so many moving pieces and parts because the outbreak on the Miami Marlins has continued to get worse. And last night, Rob Manfred on MLB Network talked about how this was not the worst-case scenario, this was not a nightmare. I don't know what is. You have an outbreak of this size, of this magnitude on a team, and the question becomes, if they are going to continue playing, if they are going to go to Baltimore on Wednesday and Thursday, how are they going to field a representative major league team when perhaps half of the players on their roster have tested positive for COVID-19 and will not be available? That's where they are right now. The good news out of Philadelphia, of course, was that none of the Phillies players or coaches have tested positive to this point. But we also know that the incubation period for the coronavirus, according to the CDC, is up to 14 days. So they are clearly not out of harm's way yet.
Jeff, is it possible that although they rejected a bubble format, I mean, the real idea of the bubble is not only a sterile environment or a more sterile environment in which you can contact trace, right? Because the primary responsibility is not actually to keep the players healthy, it's to keep everyone else healthy. That's why we're all social distancing. So the most vulnerable among us don't get the disease. And so in the absence of a vaccination, you identify where it is, you locate it, and then you isolate it, right? So is it possible that one of the outcomes here is anyone talking about maybe limiting the number of stadiums that are used so that some teams, like let's say it was Philadelphia or Miami or New York or wherever it hit, they would stop using that for a while and just play more road games so that rather than 15 stadium, you use 7 or 8 or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think that's an unreasonable idea, Max. I think the issue is, as we've seen with COVID-19, hotspots just bubble up random places. You don't know where the next one's going to be. And the bubble format would have been, frankly, ideal and would have been the best way to go about this. And I think there's definitely some hindsight going on inside of Major League Baseball right now. I reported back in April that they were considering looking into the possibility of a bubble, and almost immediately upon the story dropping, players were like, no, 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 no. We have no desire to go and be away from our families for 4, 5, 6 months potentially of the season. We are not on board with it. And it wasn't just players either. It was organizations too. It was ownership. The idea of the bubble just simply never gained traction inside of baseball. And you wonder, looking at the NBA, 0 positives. Looking at the NHL, 0 positives, whether they're looking at that right now and saying, boy, this was a missed opportunity for us.
Hey, Jeff, real quick, I'm sorry, I just want to jump in one more time. How is it possible? I understand disinformation and wishful thinking and all those things and sports fans understand that stuff very well. That's why, your prospects are always overvalued when you talk about trading guys and everything. I understand that, but given the known information about the virus at the time, why is this taking anyone by surprise? What other possible outcome could they have possibly expected? The bubble from months ago seemed the only possible solution. No guarantee, but maybe you could do a season with a bubble. Why are they caught off guard by this?
You know, Max, I don't know that they are caught off guard by it. And that's the part that strikes people as being folly with Major League Baseball's plan. And Rob Manfred said it yesterday. We were expecting situations like this. That's why we have not just a roster of 30 players at the big league level, but also alternate sites that have up to 30 players, because in case of an outbreak, we want to have players ready. The problem is the Marlins are still, no pun intended, fishing around for other people, whether it's via free agents, whether it's on the waiver wire. They've claimed 2 people over the last 2 days to fill out their pitching staff. It's not enough. And, if the whole idea of Rob Manfred having power in this situation is to either put things on pause or shut them down, when a team cannot compete, I understand that the Marlins, were not expected to win the National League East this year, but the team that they're going to be throwing out there, if they do play at all over the next couple of weeks, is going to look like an average AAA team at best.
Jeff, I want to go back to something Rob Manfred said, where he said this is not a nightmare scenario when now you have 17 players that have tested positive for COVID-19. How much would he have changed his mind or changed his stance if this happened to the New York Yankees or the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Freddie, that is the million-dollar question, and that is literally just before I came on with you guys, I got a text saying, what if this were the Yankees? And I think, listen, it would be naive of us to think that it wouldn't be different if it were the Yankees. If it were the New York Yankees and you had stars testing positive and they were having to go down and get minor league guys to fill out their roster, I think the tack on this would be completely different. And it's unfair and it's wrong. It's almost the same way, though, that, catchers got run over for generations in baseball and nobody thought anything of it. Then Buster Posey tore up his knee, and suddenly catchers can't get run over anymore because Buster Posey is a Hall of Fame caliber player, and seeing players like that go down in such terrible fashion just was not palatable. I think if the Yankees were the team right now that were in the position that the Marlins are, Rob Manfred's tack and Major League Baseball's tack might be a little different, not just because of a lack of consistent and logical thinking by them, but because I think the pressure points from outside would be even stronger than they are right now.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.